Rudy Giuliani is being accused of essentially stealing from individuals who invested in a documentary he was raising money for that was supposed to, oh, it's so sweet. It just keeps getting better. The attempt to accuse Biden of all these different things. And then people face planning. To put together this documentary, Rudy Giuliani got a bunch of money to do this. And then the documentary was supposed to prove all these things about Biden in the lead up to the 2020 presidential election and be the smoking gun of Biden's crimes. And then, they didn't actually finish making the documentary. I wonder why.
That's pretty commensurate, isn't it, with Rudy Giuliani's record? He'll make a claim and then fail to prove it. He does that with those 60 court cases that they lost back to back to back trying to overturn the election. I guess it makes sense that it would follow through in this documentary. I guess it'd be the same thing.
Right. I mean, I'm not okay with someone being stolen or someone's money being stolen from them, but I could have predicted that for them if they had asked my advice, but they didn't. Ugh. Here from Mediaite, Rudy Giuliani accused of pocketing $300,000 from investors after promising Biden smoking gun documentary that went up in smoke. As Rudy Giuliani's legal and financial troubles pile up, the former New York City mayor is also facing scrutiny from two brothers accusing him of promising them anti-Joe Biden documentary that he failed to deliver. Insider, that's Business Insider, flagged a lawsuit filed earlier this month by brothers and Republican donors Baldev and Cool-Munger. The Mungers claimed that in 2019, Giuliani and his associates, Tim Yell and George Dixon III, asked them to invest in a documentary project that would be a possible kill shot to Biden's presidential campaign against Donald Trump. And then the suit alleged that Giuliani's team suggested they had smoking guns, to back up the unproven claim that Biden pushed for the firing of Ukrainian Prosecutor General Viktor Shokin in order to protect his son Hunter Biden from investigation into Burisma while he sat on the company's board. But the movie was not actually materialized, and thus they want that money back, I assume. Now, the key claim there, I'm so sick of, because it's so opposed to the facts of the situation. There, the smoking gun was supposed to be here. In case you've missed it, I don't know how, but Republicans are accusing President Biden of being bribed. And the big central claim is that one of the things he was bribed for is to, in his role as vice president, push for the firing of a top prosecutor in Ukraine named Viktor Shokin. We've since learned, though, that Viktor Shokin was actually advantageous to Burisma because, yes, he was technically overseeing an investigation into them, but had no serious intention of seeking accountability. And so they liked that he was there. Oh, technically someone might try to hold us accountable, but we know he's corrupt. He's going to be fine with us. And so firing him would actually put us in a more unstable situation. And so Biden was pushing for the firing of a prosecutor that his son's company didn't actually want fired based on the transcript of the conversation that they say is a bombshell conversation between, who's the name of the former business associate? Devin Archer of Hunter Biden. But then question, do you have any basis to believe that Vice President Biden's call for Shokin's removal was driven by anything other than the U.S. government's anti-corruption policy in Ukraine? Answer, yeah, I have no of it. And then he says, I have no other proof to contradict that, and also specifically asked if Viktor Shokin was someone Burisma wanted in that place, and Devin Archer said, indeed, that's correct, and still they're trying to prove that this was based on a bribe.
Yeah, so this is really frustrating, and it's complicated. And so I unfortunately I know far too much about the situation than I care to admit, because it's been the subject of numerous debates I've had with conservative streamers and conservative commentators, even though it really has absolutely no relevance to U.S. policies. It's like a certain type of reality TV. I'm like, why am I binging this? Why am I binging the intricacies of Burisma lore and Hunter Biden's situation? But the fact of the matter is, you hit the nail on the head. Viktor Shokin was unanimously considered, not just by the United States, not just by the State Department under President Obama. This was like official U.S. policy, but also the position of the European community, yep. Right? Our allies believe this. Viktor Shokin was profoundly corrupt because he was not pursuing investigations into suspected acts of corruption by Ukrainian officials or Ukrainian business interests. And people, like you said, they'll appeal to, well, some reports say that there was an investigation on paper into Burisma. There is some reporting to indicate that, although it's contradicted by other sources who have investigated since Shokin was fired. And they're like, actually, no, there was no movement on any investigation.
That had been shelved before this even happened.
Yep. 100%. But of course, it's also important to remember just a couple of things. Number one, the investigation into Burisma's corrupt activity predates Hunter Biden. The time frame that Burisma was under scrutiny was before Hunter Biden ever joined the board. He had literally no relationship to any corrupt activity that was discussed in the investigation, number one. Number two, with respect to the alleged bribe, that FD 1023 form, that the FBI confidential source, the source says that he overheard the Burisma CEO, Mykola Zlochevsky, say that he bribed Joe Biden $5 million. Now, number one, he also said that they'd never be able to prove it, which is it's interesting, right? Yeah, I made this person the bribe, but you'll never find any evidence of it. Well, that's kind of suspicious, right? Like you're almost rejecting out of hand that you could ever prove your claim. But number two, that same person, Mykola Zlochevsky, said a few years later in an FBI questionnaire, he's like, no, I never had any sort of financial relationship with Joe Biden. So the person who was supposed to provide that smoking gun, Zlochevsky, contradicted himself 2 years later. So this is just this is a witch hunt. When people talk about witch hunts, it's just one dead end after another. They have no financial transactions tying Joe Biden to anybody. And Hunter Biden was never in office. If he engaged in nepotism, fine, show disdain for that. But why aren't we investigating Jared Kushner, who did have a White House position, got a $2 billion check from the Saudis, and he was the attaché from the U.S. Under the Trump administration to Saudi Arabia? It's so absurd. I could go on about it. I'm sorry. I just had to get that off my chest.
And to continue forward, Lev Parnas, what's the correct term? Who was working under Giuliani, was the stooge of Giuliani.
Yes.
Looked for years, or was assigned by Giuliani to look for evidence of these claims, and he has since written a letter to Republican House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, saying, "You can keep looking. I looked for this for so long. It's a wild goose chase. You're not going to find it.
It's a conspiracy theory.
Actually, it's a conspiracy theory. These aren't valid claims. You go."
And no. You're right. He wrote that letter. He's been active on Twitter. He's conducted interviews with MSNBC and CNN. Of course, Fox News will not take him now. They love Lev Parnas back in 2020 and 2019. He is persona non grata now. But he's publicly said, Jim Comer, call me as a witness. I will testify under oath. Because this was my mission. This was my Rudy Giuliani approved mandate. I know this situation better than anybody. And I'm telling you, not only is it a wild goose chase, it's a conspiracy theory. You all know it's a conspiracy theory. And I'm happy to put my money where my mouth is and testify under oath. And guess what, Luke? I don't think they've asked him any questions. I think they have no interest in having a Lev Parnas
Zero interest. And you wonder why Rudy Giuliani wasn't able to put that money he got to work and actually make the documentary with the smoking gun, because there's no smoking gun. Not to mention the fact, if you have an issue with the family of presidents benefiting from that position, obviously when they actually worked in the administration, like Jared Kushner, Ivanka Trump, and all the trademark stuff with Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner's $2 billion deal and all of that. 100%. But even more directly, Forbes estimated that Trump himself made $5.4 million from China as president. So you don't have an issue with that, but you have an issue with baseless accusations against Biden that time and time again, even the people who were also trying to find evidence of these things are saying, it's a conspiracy theory. Ridiculous and shameful.
It is. I will not stand for it, sir. I completely reject it.
I stand with Dark Brandon.
That's cool, Jack. That's cool.
Thank you so much for watching. For the outro on this video, I want to plug Josiah's channel. Hit them with it, Josiah.
Hey, everybody. I appreciate you watching. You can find me at youtube.com/@ponderingpolitics. One word, pondering politics. If you like progressive commentary that focuses on coalition building with other elements of the left and calling the Republican Party out for what it's become, I hope you'll view my channel, give me a like and subscribe and some feedback. Again, youtube.com/@ponderingpolitics. Thanks again.